Hello again. One of the things which I find puzzling and not a little irritating is that any mention of objective truth when it comes to things like immigration, Islam, or crime figures will result in immediate accusations of being guilty of some fashionable sin or other, whether Islamophobia, racism, or what have you. Of course, most of us have no objection at all to people telling us that our interpretation of some evidence or other is flawed or mistaken. It is when even discussing the evidence or drawing attention to it causes others to despise or hate us before we have even expressed an opinion on the implications of the fact we describe that it gets a bit much. In France, it has come to light that President Macron remarked to the then health minister that the problem with emergency care in France is that it's filled with people called Mamadou. Mamadou is a typical name for West Africans who have come to live in France. He was saying, in fact, that the country's A&E departments are full of immigrants and that this creates a problem. They get clogged up with immigrants. I need hardly say that the word racism is now flying around in France in connection with this news. In the description to this video, I give a link to a news item which describes the business. This is an example of what I mean about merely mentioning the evidence before even exploring the implications already gets one into difficulty. You see, a person in this country could make similar observations about A&E departments here, and even before expressing any view about the matter is likely to be savaged for being a racist. Here is a simple piece of evidence. I will mention it without expressing a view as to whether it is a good, bad, or neutral thing. Anybody visiting an A&E department in England these days, not just those in big cities either, will be sure to notice that the majority of those present are not of British heritage or ethnicity. This is the case with both patients and staff. The sight of white British patients is increasingly rare, and the sight of white British doctors or nurses even rarer. This is a fact of which I dare say every viewer will be well aware. Now, that, if you like, is a piece of evidence. It happens to be the case. There are clearly several opinions which could be expressed about this situation. You could argue that because we in Britain have free health care and hospitals and some countries do not, then it is a matter of common justice that we should share this health care with other, less fortunate people from around the world. This is a perfectly coherent and reasonable position to take, that we should have compassion on all people and share our good fortune with others as a matter of charity. Others could equally well argue that if we do this with everybody in the world, then the hospitals and healthcare here will be overwhelmed, and eventually our health service will operate at a level no better than that in, say, a typical sub-Saharan African country. That, too, is a point of view we could discuss. Actually, of course, nobody ever gets as far as debating the rival merits of such points of view, because as soon as anybody draws attention to the evidence, that is to say, describes how many foreigners are now to be found in the local A&E department and how few of the patients or staff are British, then the word racism is at once shouted. Tempers then rise, and rational conversation becomes impossible. It is this which I find annoying. Those who hold up signs saying things like refugees welcome here simply refuse to talk about the implications or possible consequences of such a stance and just resort to abuse if anybody tries to talk about anything at all connected with immigration. I don't think that's a good thing or a healthy thing.